I let him know that I don't have as great a relationship as one of his other ministers, or with one of his other ministers, and I expressed my desire in person that if he chose to make a change in that portfolio, I'd be happy to have a reset in our relationship on that front. But we're going to work on the things that we can work together on.
She's such a straight shooter. You know, she's not like Justin Trudeau, where he runs his mouth about people to the media, but never actually speaks directly to the people he's running his yap about. We saw him do that with Premier Smith when he was in town. She does the opposite. She tells these feds exactly what she thinks of them. She tells them what she's going to do to them. She puts them on warning, then she does it. Then there's the execution, which makes me really happy because it's a big change from the strongly worded letters that Jason Kenney would send to the feds every time the feds annoyed him. She's doing more than that. She's taking them to court and winning court cases. However, Danielle Smith did send a strongly worded letter this week, but that's not the only thing that she's doing on the carbon tax front. She just decided that since he was in town, since the other premiers are speaking out, including Liberal premiers, so this is her opportunity to show support for those Liberal premiers. She is joining, as she says in her tweet. Let me just bring it up. I'm joining with the majority of premiers and provinces in opposition to Justin Trudeau's federal carbon tax. Ottawa must listen to the voices of Canadians. She says, on behalf of Albertans, I urge you to scrap the punitive carbon tax. If your government is unwilling to listen to the millions of Canadians calling for this, we are insisting you provide a uniform exemption on all forms of home heating, including natural gas for all provinces. At the very least, we're asking you to suspend the federal carbon tax increases on October 1st, 2024. I think it's going up to $80 a ton from, I think it's 65 right now. She goes on to basically this letter reiterates what she said to the Prime Minister when he came to Calgary. As communicated to you at our meeting in Calgary yesterday, Canadians have been burdened with many difficult decisions. Filling their gas tanks, paying their bills, and buying groceries have created worry amongst families. That's why I'm asking you to take action to help Albertans and Canadians. Sincerely, Danielle Smith. So that's great. And once again, we are following our friends in Saskatchewan on this issue. And we'll get to that in a second because we have to hear from Steven Guilbeault. He's going to drink what's left of my life force after being suckled on by Justin Trudeau. What I have left here, Steven Guilbeault is going to, he's going to drink from my life force, and we're all going to be dumber for having heard this, but I think it's necessary. So I'm sorry, but we should do this.
Not only has the way we live and work fundamentally shifted, right now we're being impacted by a higher cost of living. Sometimes people will try to separate the two, that we need to focus on one thing or the other, the rising cost of living or climate action. But those who believe that fail to see the fundamental truth, that taking climate action lowers our cost of living. Clean and efficient energy is not only essential part of lowering our carbon footprint, but it also helps Canadians save money. And Canadians know this. But many residents faced initial barriers in being able to afford energy upgrades. That's why our government supports clean energy programs across the country. The Green Municipal Fund's community efficiency financing has played a significant role in supporting communities and helping to improve their energy efficiency.
Are you dumber? I feel dumber. Thanks, granola middle-aged Harry Potter, for that financial advice. You see, if he makes you pay more for basic necessities, you will be richer and the weather will be gooder. You know, the idea that increasing the carbon tax will save us money is news to experts like Tiff Macklem, the head of the Bank of Canada, who said that the number one, I think, driver of inflation is carbon tax. And if we just cut that out, it would drive our inflation rate way down. And by the way, I should tell you, after Alberta had a cold snap, I think it was in January when it was like minus 53, and our electricity grid could not keep up because it has been unjustly contaminated with green energy, and the uncertainty created by an NDP government meant that natural gas plants were not built to replace the coal that the NDP brought offline early. Our inflation rate jumped up because we had to pay a premium for electricity thanks to green energy policies. Why? Because we had to buy last minute electricity from our friends in Wyoming and Montana who were experiencing the same cold snap, but luckily they had coal generation. They could just sell the surplus to us, but we had to pay a premium for it because we all needed the same electricity at the exact same time. So green energy doesn't make you richer, it makes you poorer and makes everything more expensive and your electricity grid unreliable. So anyways, Steven Guilbeault is wrong as always. Let's keep going because we've got more from Steven Guilbeault. Oh, there's not much of my life force left, but let's power through this together. He's says to the premiers calling for the carbon tax to end, that calling for the carbon tax to end absolutely makes no sense. So let's hear it from this guy.
Well, I mean, those premiers who say that we should pause the carbon pricing in Canada need to understand that climate change and the impacts of climate change aren't going on pause. And the more we pollute, the more we will suffer the impacts of climate change. And if there's a region in this country that has seen impacts of climate change, it's Nova Scotia. Worst forest fire in the history of the province last year. Worst floodings. We're seeing storm surges like we've never seen before in this province and across the country. I mean, last year, for the first time in the history of the planet, we had Category 5 hurricanes in all 5 ocean basins of the world. We've never seen that before. And those who say that we should pause the price on pollution will never talk about the fact that it is the most effective measure to fight climate change. So if we pause that, what else are we going to do to cut pollution by a third by 2030? I've been working on climate change for 30 years. That's all I've done as an adult. And measures that can help us achieve a third of our 2030 objective that are lying around here, low-hanging fruits, they don't exist. It's simply not true. And those premiers never talk, including Pierre Poilievre, never talk about the fact that 8 out of 10 Canadians who pay carbon pricing in the province that are subjected to the federal system receive more money than what they pay back. So what they want us to do is they want us to get rid of the most effective measure to fight climate change, and they want to take us money away from people at a time of affordability. That makes absolutely no sense.
They keep banging this drum that if you give them money, the climate will get better, the weather will get more gooder, and that you will get more money back in return. And just imagine if you said that in the private sector. Let's say you were asking for financial investment in your company and you said, just give me money and I'll give you more back in return. Nothing happens in the middle. Nothing happens. In fact, things that will reduce the size and scope of that money are going to happen. For example, with the case of the carbon tax, it's going to cycle through the hands of 100 bureaucrats, each of them making a bureaucratic salary and benefits. And yet somehow magically government is going to increase that money and then give that back to you. You would be in jail. There's no possible way that you could say that in the private sector. And yet Steven Guilbeault thinks that he can get away with saying this, and Canadians are dumb enough to believe it.